Good evening and welcome to the Health and Wellness Show. Kama kawaida, this is where we inform you, we empower you, and we inspire you to take control of your health and live your best life. My name is Chabet Birir and karibuni sana to the show. And today we are talking about a topic that affects many of us, if not all of us, cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is becoming a trending issue. It's becoming a big issue in Kenya and also in Africa. And so today we are going to talk about the state of cyberbullying in Kenya and Africa. We are going to talk about the facts and figures of cyberbullying in Kenya and Africa. And we're also going to look at the law. What does the law say when it comes to cyberbullying? Did you know that you could be arrested if you bully someone online? So first of all, what is cyberbullying? Cyberbullying is the intentional intent to cause harm or intimidate someone by using online platforms like social media. You can use text messages, and this is the way technology is facilitating cyberbullying is becoming a huge issue, because we have many people actually reporting issues of mental health issues because of cyberbullying. And to help us understand cyberbullying better, I have three guests on set, and we have Patricia Machio, who is a gender equity advocate. We also have Christine Wanjohi, who is a digital content moderator. And last but not least, we have Jean-Paul Murunga, who is a lawyer and also a programs director at a non-governmental organization where you deal a lot with women and children who also have gone through cyberbullying and gender-based violence. So karibuni sana to the show, Christine, Machio, and Murunga. I'd like us to dive right in and talk about our experiences. I know at one point or another, if not you, your friend or someone you know has experienced cyberbullying. But I would like us to talk about it on a personal level, starting with you, Christine. Have you experienced cyberbullying?
Personally, no, but I have seen it happen to so many people through mostly digital platforms, because I like being on social media. I consume content, and also I moderate content. So yes, I have seen it happen to a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Machio?
I think from as soon as I was able to access digital media, the cyberbullying began. I think my first experience was as young as 16 or 17. And it was also my first time interacting with, back then it was Twitter, now we call it X. And I was being very vocal, I think, about the rights of women, the rights of girls. And immediately the backlash started from random people online. I didn't even know I was interacting with people. I was very new to the space.
So you started advocacy at a very young age, 16? 17.
Actually, it might have been earlier than that.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So what was your first experience, your very first encounter? What did you do? And then what happened after what you did?
So I think I was tweeting about women's rights and girls' rights. I think there was a conversation going on around the right to education. And I was out there, talking about how we need to ensure more girls have access to education, we need to make schools safer, etc., etc. I was very young, so I was being very vocal about it. But almost immediately, I think one of the comments that stood out to me was, I assume it was a man and I assumed they were foreign because of the profile and the way they were speaking. But they immediately came at me and started asking me about foreign feminist policy. Remember, I was a teenager. And they're asking me about feminist foreign policy from countries I hadn't even heard of at that time. And me not knowing how to interact with online trolls at the time, I remember trying to respond, because I'm thinking this is a dialogue we're having. And this person immediately shuts me down, and they call me all sorts of names, and they tell me that if I don't understand this foreign policy and I don't understand all this language, all this jargon that was being used in that particular space, then I have no right to be speaking in the platform. So that was very jarring for me, especially it happening when I was younger. And yeah, being in social media spaces, I think it's something I keep seeing even as I get a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a recurring theme.
All right, and we'll talk about how you overcame and how you handle it. But Murunga, I know you're a lawyer, you interact with these cases, but have you personally experienced cyberbullying?
Yes, personally, I have experience. I think that was 2011. I posted a photo, and that time Facebook was huge. Very many people on Facebook. And for me, the awakening call was that sometimes the bullying is not from a stranger, it's from somebody you know. So it was a bit, it took me back in terms of I didn't expect this person to comment this way. But because the fact that you know them as well, so again, you feel like, should I take action? How will it go? This is somebody I know from home. Yeah, so those, and it was just a photo. So you wonder, yeah, that probably...
A photo of you?
Yeah, of myself, and I was just about to get married that time.
Okay.
Yeah, so the comments, particularly that comment was a bit, I would say, overboard. It was a bit personal, so it took me back, and given that it was someone close, a friend, so I also felt like taking action. What would that mean to the whole friendship? And that time also, I think the laws were there, yes, but then they were not tested in terms of implementation. So thinking of if I report it to the police station, they will ask for a screenshot of the messages, and how will I get it? And then there was the aspect of how will Facebook operate to say this is authentically from the platform, because there's that aspect of proving the evidence that it is authentic from the platform, and they also agree and support probably by pulling it out or something of the sort. So yeah, because of those measures and those other technicalities, I felt like, well, I can let it go. But I think it left me with an emotional scar for a while that I didn't expect this, and especially from someone close. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
And we were just talking with Patricia, with Machio, still Patricia, but she doesn't like the name Patricia. So Machio, we were talking with Machio and Christine, and we were talking about how cyberbullying often is from bots and pseudo accounts. But I can imagine the impact of someone you know bullying you. And as a lawyer, were you a lawyer in 2011?
Yes, I was already an advocate, and
so you were tempted to take the steps.
Yeah,
Did you take
no,
the steps?
I didn't. I almost went to take an OB, but then on the flip side, I actually called him and we spoke and told me, was it really necessary what you commented? And then he was like, it was a joke. Yeah, so yeah, we left it that way. And I think from then I've not encountered any negative or intrusive comments from the specific person. Yeah.
Okay. And you've talked about the stress bit, how it stressed you. Machio, how did it affect your mental health when you experienced cyberbullying?
I think it's, back then, especially being so young, it was very jarring because just getting into the internet and, you know, this is a new form of community that you're starting to interact with. At the back of your mind, you're expecting it to be a safe space, or a space where, you know, you can have open dialogue with people, or at least that's what I thought at the time. So already, you know, it was very shocking. I remember freezing for a moment. I remember being afraid to go back into the computer because I wasn't using a phone. So I remember being too afraid to go back and check on the platform and see what was being said. And then also, the other thing that now carried forward beyond that is that I really minimized how much I interacted with social media, which meant that I was too afraid to talk to people. I was too afraid to go on social media to look for information. And even in my own private space, I started kind of second-guessing myself in my views anytime I felt like I wanted to speak about something. Yeah.
And I'm sorry about that, and I'm glad that you overcame and now you're an advocate for gender equity. Christine, you are a content moderator. And of course, you've experienced cyberbullying, if not firsthand, secondhand. How has it been for you, like as you moderate content? What is the state of cyberbullying currently? I know you interact with a lot of those comments and a lot of those posts. So how would you say the landscape looks like?
I don't know how to put a measure to it, but it is big. Because of the anonymity that the internet provides, people think they can come to you and say literally anything on the social platforms. So it is a lot. People say things that they would not ordinarily walk up to a person and say, I would come to you, Chebet, and say A, B, C, D about you. I can't do that in person, but I have the audacity to do it online. Online. Yeah, so it is a lot. It is across all platforms. Everything is fodder for debate or for people to say whatever they want. And unfortunately, I would say, from my experience, like it mostly happens to women and gender minorities. Every time you look like you have a voice
You're shut down.
Yeah, you're shut down, and they say all kinds of things. They don't even differ with your opinion. They come to you. They come for you as a person.
As a person. So
Yeah.
abuse maybe your facial features, your body features. And
Exactly.
you've talked about anonymity, but Murunga, how anonymous can I be online?
It's hard, yeah, you're
How
right.
anonymous can I be online?
Yeah, it's hard because again, you also want to put out what you stand for. So again, yeah, you want to be known for what you stand for. It's hard. I think with the new laws we have, probably we are heading to a space where there will no longer be an anonymous account, probably. So just
Is
moving
it
ahead.
possible to trace a pseudo account?
Yeah, I think with the right technology you can. With the right technology you can, especially in countries where the cyberspace is very well regulated. Like, for example, you look at the issues of the amendments where we're talking about at some point, there'll be a link between your online identity and your physical national identity. So
So
if that
you have
goes
to use
through,
your ID
exactly,
to register for an account on social media.
But at the end of the day, even the platforms, the companies that own the platforms, they have a lot of information that they're able to bring out. Only that there are no laws that will compel them to actually go and dig this anonymous account.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you've talked about the Cyber Crimes Act. I know critics will argue, and many critics have come to say that this Cybercrime Act is not okay. So I would like us to look into it and say, when it comes to cyberbullying, how will it help? Of course, there are some clauses that would border the authoritarian or dictatorship. But when it comes to cyberbullying, how do you look at this bill? I want to start with Christine Machio, and then the lawyer will finish on that.
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand most of it. But from how people are approaching it is that, it looks like it's coming from a political point. But to an extent, we have to acknowledge that there needs to be regulation online so that it can be a safe space for people to express themselves without, it being without causing harm to each other. Yes, you can use the internet, but to what extent? Yeah, so that is what I would say about that. So I feel like there needs to be regulation. I don't fully understand the act as it is right now, but I think it's important for regulation to be there.
For the internet to be regulated.
Yeah.
Okay. Machio?
I think I've given it a very visceral look so far. So one of the interesting conversations we'd had just before this was looking from a personal perspective. I felt like it needed to be a little bit more specific in terms of some of the violations, some of the crimes. But one of the things I do appreciate about the act is the penalties, because they do reflect how serious the matter is. I think one of the issues with cyber crimes, and especially issues like cyberbullying, is people often feel like the virtual self is separate from the physical self. And we forget oftentimes that a lot of the violence that takes place in the digital space does cross over into the physical space. It causes real harm even when someone isn't able to physically get to you, which oftentimes they would after they've interacted within the digital space. But even the psychological harm it causes, the reputational harm and everything. So I like that the penalties are now kind of reflecting that seriousness. So that much I appreciate about it.
Yeah, when you talk about penalties, there's one on cyber harassment that says that if you do digital communication that is likely to cause a person to die by suicide, you are punishable by up to 10 years imprisonment or 20 million shillings fine. Murunga, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that has been argued, and given that there's a case in court now on that, and one of the things they're challenging is the penalties that are they commensurate, given that initially it was 5 million, 3 years, and then now you have 10 years to 20 million. What is the rationale? So I wouldn't say it is good or bad, given that it will be adjudicated, because again, a lot of these laws, it depends on the interpretation of the judge or the magistrate sitting, and they are also informed by their own social, religious, cultural backgrounds on these issues. So if they are averse to technology, of course, you know what they'll talk about, and if they are pro-technology, given especially the young generations, they'll say this is draconian law. But what I can say is that given that this is a criminal law, so on the issue of clarity of the law, so for a criminal law, basically you need to have an offense, something that amounts to an offense, and then a penalty which is concrete, that is a penalty to this offense. so that it is not vague. And it doesn't act in terms of the acts that happened before the act. So if the law fulfills, or the draft fulfills those parameters, then it is a good criminal law. But now if you look at the other elements in terms of the penalty, you ask yourself, what social evil do we want to deter people from, or what virtue do we want to encourage? Because basically the law weighs those things, that do we want to encourage a certain kind of virtue, which quote unquote we consider as a good thing or a right thing, and then do we want to discourage a certain kind of vice which we consider to be bad? So my personal opinion is that a criminal law has to have a penalty, but the penalty has to be reasonable in terms of the offense. While yes, those crimes or those statements cause, as we've said, mental but also physical injury, because if you have a mental injury out of stress, out of the false statement or the false graphic, you might not sleep, you might have migraines, headaches, so then there's a physical element. But then I think we need just to interrogate that, are these penalties commensurate? Are they, or do we just want to lock people out? Because out of the Gen Zs who are protesting are probably, quote unquote, making those graphics, how many of them will be able to pay that 20 million? So basically means you are going to jail them. And we are talking about our jails already at full and beyond capacity. So the realities of even implementing this law, I think it needs to be interrogated, that what is the reality of even implementing it to discourage, quote unquote, the vice that whoever came up with it thought that it is supposed to discourage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Murunga. And we'll talk about the prevention, but I want us to look at this law continuously. So there's the powers of the people, and there's also the need to punish those who harass people online. So Christina and Machio, where do we draw the line? We want to punish people who are cyberbullying, but again, this law, it is like a double-edged sword. It punishes even those who are speaking truth to power. So how would you say, or what do you think needs to be done? Where do we draw the line on freedom of expression and punishing cyber bullies or people who harass people online?
I would say there should be no gray areas. Like when you're drafting this law, it needs to be like, this
Clear.
end and this end.
Yeah.
It needs to be very clear. Because also we are coming from a country where there's a lot of banter online. Literally everything is posted out there. There's banter around it. Maybe it's not meant to be harmful because not everybody says you can make a joke about something that you're not supposed to joke about. But is that cyberbullying? Should that person be punished or jailed for 10 years because they did that? So it needs to be very clear. There's no gray areas, black and white, no gray areas, because a lot of people then would suffer because of that, and maybe it was just banter to them. Yeah.
Machio?
Sure, I think I do agree with that, in that when there's gray areas for me in legislation, it leaves a lot of room for interpretation, misinterpretation, and that can cause a lot of harm. The other thing I think we need to consider also, in that, in as much as we are promoting, freedom of expression and, the need to hold public powers accountable, for some of their actions and everything. And for me, I also believe, there are some things that are done in secret that sometimes it does help, to have them brought to the fore for accountability purposes.
Okay.
But at the same time, I do hold strongly that, and I think it's something that anyone who posts usually needs to think through. Ask yourself about whatever you're posting. Is it factual? Is it fair? Is it contributing to maybe the betterment of society or the betterment of people's lives? Or is it going to be, are you posting something for vibes? And in the spirit of posting it for vibes,
Or to gain followers.
Yeah, or to gain followers. Are you just doing this to gain clout, and who is being harmed in the process of you doing that? So even at the individual level, as we are doing the posting, we need to be conscious of that, because I don't think freedom of expression should be a justification or an excuse for me to, let's say, come out and start saying, very demeaning things about your appearance, very demeaning things about your personal life. Social media is a powerful tool, and I think we're not using it the right way.
It's a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So for laws like that, I definitely agree we need to be very clear. We can't leave any gray areas, so that in that same sense, also as you're posting, you can be very aware that this thing I'm saying is fair comment and it can go out there. But this other one, I'm saying it just to be hurtful. It's not based in fact. It's meant to be malicious. It's meant to be harmful. And the law is clear that when it takes this direction, then there will be penalties. Yeah.
Before you post, think twice. Is it right? Is it harmful? And of course, we use social media the right way. But Murunga, the lawyer, how do we protect users from harm and preserve freedom of expression at the same time?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, and it goes back to the whole debate about human rights. Are they absolute in terms of at what point does your right to post end and my right for privacy begins? And this is an ending debate because our constitution, the right to freedom of speech is there, very clear. But then we have also laws on libel, slander, defamation, and then now we have, beyond those civil remedies, now we have criminal remedies, which now the act itself, that is the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act, and now the amendments 2024, which have been now passed in 2025 by being assented by the president, now makes very stiffer penalty. If you look at those penalties, 10 years, you look at other crimes, like for example, sexual offenses, crimes.
Or corruption.
Exactly, or corruption. You find some of those sentences. So then, yeah, you might want to try and weigh, but I think that is not probably the right way to go, because again, the impact of every offense or every crime to the victim is different, and victims are different.
Yes.
Yeah, so in this particular case, what I will say is that our constitution is robust in terms of the freedom of speech that is protected, but then these other laws are supposed now to provide the parameters within which this particular right does not go to infringe the rights of other people. But then while doing that, you do not, as what you have said, you do not criminalize, for example, what you call fair comment, which is actually a defense in defamation, that it was a fair comment, it was a true comment, or the person to whom this was against actually agrees to it that, this is true, or it is factual. So I think the lack of awareness on the background of this particular amendment contributes to this huge, what I can say, uproar against it. That is one fact, because remember, there were all other issues that the president just woke up in the morning and
signed about 8
and these things, of course, I assume they must have been debated in parliament, and probably they were debated during times. Remember, 2024 was not an easy year. It was a difficult one, that people were going through a lot, both politically but also economically. That is also the time when there was a lot of mass layoff, if you remember, USID issues, and the US starting to impose taxes on countries, on products from countries, and even the African Growth Opportunity Act issues being removed. So there were people who had lost jobs. So following some of this discussion probably didn't happen in the context in which it's supposed to happen in the public participation. So then this goes through, just like, for example, the current constitutional amendment bills around the term limit. We'll just wake up one day and voila, it has been signed. So I think we are hopeful that the judges who will listen to this petition will wake up to balance those two, the right to fair comment and freedom of speech vis-a-vis the right of the person against whom this comment is made. Privacy, dignity, and all that. So that is balanced. Otherwise, the vagueness in the law is always there. Law is subject to interpretation. And when you look at it critically, there is no... The defense counsel will use it for their purpose. The other side will use it for their... And they'll come into... So it is the judge to decide. And given that we have a system where it is adversarial, then the word of the judge is really critical. And that's why also, as Equality Now, we have a lot of programs where we are bringing judges to do exchanges from other countries, so that the cultural socialization of the judge is widened, so that they see how these are also interpreted across, for example, Africa, other jurisdictions, so that we don't have a very narrow interpretation of some of these rights. And we've seen that, especially when you talk about sexual offenses, things like rape and marital rape. You find that in some countries it is still very rigid, that we cannot conceive a marital rape, that somebody is being raped in the context of marriage, while in other countries they've gone ahead and seen that it happens. So the same way with the freedom of speech and criminalizing false statements, or statements that will lead, for example, to what you've said, someone committing suicide. But again, how will you know that the comment I made is linked
the one that caused someone to die by
but
suicide?
The judges and the magistrates should be able to rein on when Parliament tries to overdo their power, that they are the ones who are supposed to bring them back and tell them that actually this goes against what we call the grand norm, the constitution, and the natural justice systems that we have. And then now they come back, and we hope that this will be settled very soon by the court. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that these cases should be handled reasonably and as case-by-case basis. All right, thank you so much for your time. We are going to take a very short break, and when we are back, we'll talk about prevention of cyberbullying and actions that you can take when you've been harassed online. Don't go away. Welcome back. If you've just tuned in, this is the Health and Wellness Show, and my name is Chebet Birir. We are talking about cyberbullying, and before we went for a break, we were talking about cyberbullying and the law and the Cyber Crimes Act that President William Ruto just signed. And we're talking about the pros and cons of the law, how harsh the fines are. And of course, Murunga, who is a lawyer, is with us on set to help us understand the law aspect of cyberbullying. We also have Patricia Machio, who is a gender equity advocate. She's talking to us about minority groups and how cyberbullying affects them. And last but not least, we have Christine Wanjohi, who is a digital content moderator. And she's talking to us about the landscape of cyberbullying, of course, in Kenya and in Africa. Now, Christine, you moderate content on a daily. Please tell us, how is your day from the time you wake up to the time you go home? What type of comments or content do you see, and how do you decide this one I'll moderate, this one will pass?
To make this easy to understand is I work for an organization that creates content, educational content, and also advocacy around SRHR, sexual and reproductive health rights. Yeah, so that means I spend a lot of time on our online digital platforms, and by that I mean social media and website, where our content is posted. So my typical day is basically monitoring the conversations, the content, the posts, and the conversations on the comments and the private message. Yeah, so I see all kinds of things. I would say
I can imagine.
Everything, especially because SRHR is something that is sensitive. You will post about, say, for example, something about birth control, which is meant to be educational, but somebody will take everything out of context and, just say all manner of things. Or it could be maybe about gender minorities and the hate, like from morning to evening, you're dealing with a lot of hate from people who do not take time to understand the context or the content. Yeah, so that's my typical day.
Where do you draw the line?
People are very bold, especially nowadays, even on the comments, but in the DMs is where they're even bolder. But you see, moderation is not just about reading, deleting comments. It's sometimes about having a conversation, not from an angry point because this person ameandika hivi.
Yes.
So it's about talking to this person, maybe to bust the myth. Maybe they have been misinformed all their life. So it's about correcting misinformation. It's about deleting hate speech, because there are some things you cannot let fester. And where I draw the line is I say this, you see, I am working for this organization and I am moderating this platform, but this also means I moderate consciously or unconsciously other platforms because I consume content online. And I advocate for people to do the same, because you can't say, for example, post your child and somebody leaves a comment sexualizing your child and you let it fester without either deleting it or responding to it and telling this person this is not right.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So at first when I started, it was a bit shaky because I didn't know how to dissociate. I thought this person is talking to me as Christine. But then I learned that, this is in general, this is our work and it must continue. So I remove myself a bit from it so that I can be able to answer from a point of empathy, from a point of I try to understand why this person is talking the way they are. I am not bashing them. What we say in our organization is that we are youth friendly. So we try to understand them and answer them and not just bash them.
Okay.
So in that way, we hope that we educate them so that tomorrow they don't go and do the same to somebody else
people.
or another organization.
Yeah. So how do you decide that I will engage this person and I will not engage this person? You delete their comment. What informs your decisions?
It depends on what the content of the comment is. Like if somebody comes, because you see, sometimes it's not just answering the organization, it's people debating each other.
Okay.
Like if somebody has made a comment, say for example, and say, trying to think of an example, say something like maybe birth control is harmful, just in general. That I will come and answer and say, like, you know, these are the facts about this,
birth control.
Yeah, about birth control. Or somebody will say something else and like somebody insults them, not answering the comment or whatever, just comes for them as a person. Yes.
Kuna kichwa kubwa.
Exactly. So that I cannot let, like, you know, sit there. And then there's general banter, because Kenyans are a funny bunch of people. Like our sense of humor is unmatched. So some of you will just put a laughing emoji and move along. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes it's never that serious, because, you know, correct the misinformation, engage in the banter a bit, you know, laugh with them. And then any hate speech, any personal attacks, just that has to go.
It has to go.
Yeah.
All right. When you talk about personal attacks, research actually shows that Kenya leads when it comes to cyberbullying compared to other countries. Actually, Eastern Africa, that's Kenya, Uganda, I think Tanzania, but Kenya is leading. Yeah. So what would you say inspires people to harass people online or spew negative content online? That's for you, Machio.
You are right about Kenya, you know, topping the charts with cyberbullying.
Kenyans are brutal.
We are brutal. We have an entire army. We have an entire cyber mob called Kenyans on Twitter. I think Kenyans on X right now.
No, Cox.
Yeah, and they are so prolific that I think we've been covered by international media. And I don't, it's interesting, even this morning I was trying to reflect on what motivates people to do these things. And some of the interesting insights I noticed was, first of all, the anonymity that the screen provides. I think Christine had mentioned earlier that people will say things to you over social media, like across screens, that they would not dare say to your face. So I think that anonymity, because I saw a media personality talking about how people would make comments towards them. And when you look at the profile of the person who said this thing, you're just seeing maybe a profile picture of a giraffe or a book or something. They have a very generic, you know, tagline or bio. So you feel, I think they feel invisible. And in feeling invisible, they're also feeling invincible. Yeah.
Okay.
They can come at you without any kind of repercussion. And also, if you think about what it would take to find this person one-on-one and engage them.
Murunga, you said with the right technology, you're able to track it down. Ironically, you see, in 2024 and 2025, when we had a lot of Gen Zs coming to talk about the government in a negative way, you know, the coffins, the caricatures, it was so easy to track them down. But how ironical is it that someone will even report online abuse, but persecuting the offender takes years? What do you think about that, Murunga?
Yeah, that is true. And not only about our cyber crimes and computer misuse laws, but generally our nation in terms of implementation of laws, implementation of Vision 2030. we are good at making these policies, and even now this new amendment. But then when it comes to implementation, there's a very big mismatch. So you look at, for example, the capacities of the officers. You look at the infrastructure, you look at the whole system, coordination, and even how they receive their reports. In the online platform is very different from the physical. During the physical, when you're walking, for example, in the streets of Nairobi, you'll meet some two police officers at random, anywhere. You'll just like, oh, where are these guys going? And they just say, oh, we are patrolling. And there are police officers patrolling the online space. So because that's how they get some of the muggings. They patrol those streets and they rescue people, they arrest. But then in the online space, they are there, but they're very silent. They can actually see a conversation going on. By the time they take action, like, for example, let me give you an example of during the My Dress, My Choice campaign and what led to that. Ladies were being harassed in matatus, and they will post those online. It will trend, and I think the one that trended most is what now led to the amendments of the sexual offences laws that led to even catcalling issues being a crime. Because these issues were being reported online, but then the officers are not taking action until somebody somewhere, probably very high officers, who decides and then says, well, can you guys track? And I had the privilege of even engaging one of the officers who actually investigated the case. And it took long. They will sometimes even go to the stage where that particular matatu was believed to be picking passengers for quite a while, for a number of days, tracking, following until where does it drop, who are the drivers. So you can see investigating just one case can really take forever. And of course, that also has an impact on the society, that if this one case has taken this long, how will my case go? And then, of course, there are the other stereotyping in our community, like, do I even go to the police station? What will they say? They'll ask for evidence, maybe screenshots. They will start talking about, are they really genuine, or did you invite this? So I think it is a whole system that needs to look at the offenses from a different lens, start believing the person reporting, start making the reporting process easy. And for me, one case that happened in Busia that I'm really proud of is there was this lady whose her child had been defiled. So defilement is rape of a child. And then the person who defiled the child was actually a neighbor. So then when we got about this case, there were issues of arrest. It took some time before the person is arrested. And then finally, the person was arrested. Then when he was arrested, there's something we call taking plea, where you go and say whether you did it or not. And of course, everybody will say, I did, even if there is really...
Not guilty.
Exactly, not guilty. So then the person was released on conditions, bond. And then after being released, then this lady received a phone call from somebody believed to be a friend of the perpetrator that you need to leave this community, we will deal with you. So she gets scared because it is her child who is actually has been abused and getting treatment, and then now you're being threatened to move away from that community. So then she seeks our support. The good thing is that I think some perpetrators also sometimes, I think, I don't know whether it's foolishness or what, but they leave trails. So then that message is what we used, and the bond was cancelled and the person was taken back in. So it's just one case that shows that if we are willing to act, we can actually act on these cases.
Yeah,
if we are willing to act, we can act on them.
I think we can, because if you look at the youth who were abducted for cyber crimes, in quotes, or for speaking about the government, they were arrested in a record 2 days, one day. Albert Ojwang, they were able to trace him in, was it Kisumu, from Nairobi, Billy Mwangi, you know, those youth. So I think when you talk about capacity, it's debatable, because I think they have capacity. What do you think, Christine? Does the government have capacity to arrest people who harass people online?
Definitely. The government has capacity. I think it's just a matter of priorities. You know, like in this case, they're able to act very fast because it involves them. It is like protecting their own. But what about protecting a young girl in Nanyuki somewhere being harassed? Like, what about that? So I think it's just a matter of priority. They have the capacity, just a matter of priorities,
Okay, Machio, what do you think?
I definitely agree that it's a matter of priorities. Because it's very interesting, like you've just mentioned, when you perpetrate any kind of cyber crimes against someone in power. And I think we even saw it before the act was amended, the first time when we had the Cyber Crimes Act come into place. And I think almost immediately we had every day there was someone in court being taken in because of a message they sent, because they, of a photo they sent, an unsolicited photo or something. But you'd notice that during that same window, or at least I noticed, during that same window, it was only powerful people who are able to, you know, benefit from the act. But yet, we have, like, I think there's a prominent activist who's sharing their story about someone who's been harassing them for 4 years consistently. to date, that person is still harassing them in the digital space.
And they have reported them.
And they have reported on all the platforms, and no action has been taken. Meanwhile, someone would, let's say, insult an MP, and within a week, they have already been presented before the court with full evidence. Yeah, ready for the trial to go on.
So you'd say it's double standards?
It's double standards. It's a matter of priorities. I think they have, I do think we have some of the strongest laws. I think we have
systems.
We have some of the most skilled law enforcement officers. It's just a matter of priorities.
It's a matter of priorities. Now, when it comes still on new mature to gender equity, we have vulnerable and minority groups, LGBTQ community. You know, in Africa or in Kenya, many people will argue that these people don't even have rights, you know, like, but Murunga, you'll talk about the rights of LGBTQ and minority groups. But studies actually show that 50% or more than 50% of these minority groups like LGBTQ, women, children, and people with disabilities face more harassment online than the other groups. Have you encountered such cases, and what have you done about it?
You're definitely right in that, yeah, definitely minoritized groups, women, children do face, you know, the biggest brunt of especially cyberbullying, cyber harassment, and technology-facilitated GBV. And personally, I haven't dealt with cases, but I have witnessed people who are close to me being subject to these abuses. I have witnessed people being cyber-stalked to the extent that it's, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes these attacks also move beyond the digital space. And the person who's stalking in the digital sphere gets to you physically, and then it has resulted in harm. So the unfortunate thing with those instances is that, like we said, the society still has certain ideologies about people. They still have certain ways in which they respond to violence when it affects women, girls, minoritized groups. And in those instances, it crosses your mind that I should report this. I have full evidence that I've been abused, and I should be able to report it. But some of the things that go through your mind is that, what's the reception I'm going to get at the police station? Yeah, you can go there, for instance, if you're a young woman who intimate images of you have been leaked without your consent, and you go to the police station. One of the things, unfortunately, you would expect to happen is to have the police asking to see those images. So it's the double trauma that you're experiencing. If you're, let's say, from the LGBTQI community, you would be criminalized even if you do go there, you know, to seek out the support and to seek out your rights.
You would go to report harassment and find yourself behind bars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are some of the unfortunate scenarios. I think the most that we've tried to do is, you know, to seek support within the platform itself. So, for instance, you try and report these accounts, you try and report some of the posts. There are the things you do to try and protect your own personal digital space, like, you know, being mindful of what you share, turning off sometimes the comments the commenting features on some of your platforms, privatizing your account. So these are just some of the mitigating measures. But in as far as getting tangible support for these groups, it's always very challenging, because I think behind the harassment, some of the things perpetrators usually bank on is that already society has put you in this box where they feel like you do not have these rights, or you do not deserve these rights, and therefore why should you be protected? Yeah. Your existence means that you should be available to the abuse. So that's the unfortunate environment we're working with.
And I agree with you when you say that, you know, it's difficult, but it's important to also note that before this person is LGBTQ, they are human. Before they are a woman, they are human. Before they are a child, they are human. So, Murunga, what does the law say when it comes to minority groups like LGBTQ, women, children, people with disabilities?
When the Constitution was being put in place, there was that issue of should we put discrimination based on sexual orientation, which some other countries have already done, but then us, we've not yet gotten there. It is about discrimination on basis of sex, male, female, but not sexual orientation. So then if you talk about protection of the law, everybody's protected. But then now when you go back to in terms of the individual vulnerabilities, it is now comes back to the duty bearer, like at the police station. To what extent is the police officer informed in terms of the capacity on handling vulnerable people? And that's why now you have issues of other officers, for example, criminalizing them or making them assure before other officers that, hey, we have this person, or even putting them in a cell where they know that they'll be abused. Like, for example, we have cases of intersex, which is actually not about sexual orientation, but about biology. So where they put our cells are either male, female, then you have an intersex. So those are some of the capacities that we talk about. But then our protective law, of course, you remember the issues of the Ugandan Sexual Offences Act about criminalizing same-sex, and there was a lot of discrimination and violence against people who are perceived to have that sexual orientation. But that should not be the mode. I think the mode should be, as you've put it, that this is a human being. Protect their rights, let them realize their dignity.
Yes.
About the choices they make, that is now at a personal level, and if they violate other people's rights, there are other mechanisms to deal with that.
Absolutely.
But I think our laws have not evolved enough to be able to recognize some of these vulnerabilities.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Murunga. They are human before they are anything else. In Machio, what would you advise a woman or a person who is of the LGBTQ community or a person with disability on how to manage cyberbullying online?
That's a tricky question. I think on the personal front, and again, I learned this from someone who's very influential in human rights spaces, and I think they do amazing work. And they mentioned that you need to, first of all, think about the boundaries that you place in your physical space. It should also be the same. You should approach your digital space with the same mentality in protecting your boundaries. So think about what you're posting, how much information are you putting out there? Are you geotagging your pictures? Are you posting, sensitive information? Are you putting private information out there? So think about that and how to protect yourself with the information you put out so that anyone who's thinking about harming you doesn't come close to you. But at the same time, I also say that the system in itself needs to do its part to protect people. So you as an individual, you can take responsibility in privatizing your account, being careful with your digital footprint and the private information that you put out. But at the same time, on a systemic level, with the laws, with the policies, and even with the people who are interacting with this information, someone's existence should not be reason for us to think that we can go out there and harm them.
Okay. Protect your peace by protecting your account and, of course, being intentional about what you post. That's a good one. Thank you, Machio. Now, Murunga, I know many Kenyans think that cyberbullying has to be abusing someone. But when I was in a training just recently with Machio and Christine, I learned about a very new term, but it happens, doxing. That is sharing personal information that belongs to someone else online without their consent. And we have a lot of that. We call it kusalimiwa or kusalimiana. So what does the law about say kusalimiana? Because even just yesterday, somebody posted a telephone number belonging to a certain leader. So what does the law say about that, posting personal information without consent?
Yeah, the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act actually criminalizes it as part of online or cyber harassment. So within harassment, you have that, you have phishing, people taking other people's identities. Even with now the amendments, now you have even SIM swapping. So there are criminal acts which are prohibited. And I think it goes back to the debate in terms of how willing are we to implement these laws that we are putting in place so that beyond it being, the comment being true or being necessary, being fair, is it criminal? So that if it is criminal, there's someone watching to take action. And I think that is what is lacking in all these places, so that we are censoring ourselves, so that we don't put a lot of information outside, yet it should be the other way around, that I put it, but then it's protected, so that it's protected by the government, but also by the multinational companies that run these platforms, because they also have an obligation around it. If my information is in your platform, it's like the way a child will be abused within a school environment. I mean, the school, beyond the government being held to account, even the school itself. So I think just bringing everybody into what my sister here said about the system. Who is the system? We are part of it, yes, but who are the other stakeholders who are not playing equivalent parts, so that we do not make people censor themselves too much. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. This is where we wrap it up. It's a very good discussion. It's been very nice having you, Christine, Machio, and Murunga. Thank you so much for joining us on this important discussion. That's where we wrap it up. That has been the Health and Wellness Show. Remember to protect your peace, guard your boundaries when you're online. And of course, for those people who think that harassing others is right, it is wrong. And as Christine has said, before you post anything on the internet, is it useful? Is it necessary? Will it cause harm to someone? Because it could be you. So don't cause harm. Be kind and create safe spaces for you and everyone else on the internet. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Chebet Birir. Have a lovely evening.